menopause? So simply put, menopause occurs when your ovaries stop making hormones, especially estrogen and progesterone as well. And your menstrual cycle stops. A woman is said to be in menopause after 12 consecutive months of no menstrual cycle. Menopause can also be triggered by a hysterectomy or surgical removal of the ovaries. So you can get it earlier than menopause. In other words, if you had to have your ovaries removed during a hysterectomy, like a partial hysterectomy, that can throw you into menopause right away. Okay? Or if you had surgery to remove your uterus or your ovaries and are not, and of course if you are not taking hormones, because they like to put you on hormone replacement therapy. Okay, but there's some natural hormone replacement therapy that you can do that we don't look at. All right? So when this happens, some women experience menopausal transition changes. Some women don't experience any transitional changes at all, and that's true. I have known some women that they didn't know what you were talking about when they talking about menopause and hot flashes and night sweat. They didn't have a clue. Like my aunt was one of them. She didn't have a clue, but she didn't have no stress either. Stress is huge. And we're gonna talk about stress. That's why I wanted to add stress in with this. So during fetal development, a female fetus has about 6 billion eggs. That's a lot of eggs, isn't it? But by the time that female is born, she has approximately about 1 million left. All right? By the time she reaches puberty, she has about 300,000 remaining. Now, you don't get any more eggs. That's it. That's all you get. Once they're gone, they're gone. Okay? So the menopausal transition most often begins between 45 and 55 years old. Okay? It usually lasts about 7 years, but it could be as long as 14 years. So the duration can depend on lifestyle factors such as smoking, the age it begins, the race, and ethnicity. So a lot of different factors can be involved as to when a woman actually starts menopause. But the average age is going to be about 51. She's going to be between 45 and 55. Okay? Why race and ethnicity? Because remember before we talked about that it could be race and ethnicity could be a factor. So why is that? Well, black women reach menopause 8.5 months earlier than white women. And they have much worse symptoms such as hot flashes, depression, sleep disturbances, but are less likely to receive hormone therapy. So you ask yourself, well, why is that? As well as medical and mental health services.
I can relate.
Okay. I'm going to ask you why in a minute.
Okay.
But we're going to talk about why. But I'm curious to know your why. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Non-Hispanic white women, Hispanic and Native Hawaiian women, they tend to begin menopausal at an earlier age. Okay? Japanese Americans, on the other hand, may begin the transition at a later age. So your ethnicity can be a factor as to when your body will start menopause. Now listen to this one. Earlier age of menopausal onset in these groups is likely to be related to what? That's the big one. Because I noticed everybody skipped health and said socioeconomics. That's a big one. What is that? Your socioeconomics, that's your social status, right? That is basically where you have grown up, right? What you've been exposed to, what you haven't been exposed to, okay? Basically your demographics, all right? Now, most black women, where we grew up, we didn't talk about these types of things. You didn't talk about menopause, okay? You didn't talk about taking care of your health, right? And we grew up eating socially, right? We grew up eating as our ethnicity, right? So what would most black women grow up eating? Fried chicken, collard greens, right? Right? I mean,
Run down.
yam, and then if you're from the islands, let's say jerk chicken, let's say, the fish, right? And we pretty much eat the same thing all the time, right? And we don't talk about, our health, and because our parents didn't talk about it, grandparents certainly didn't talk about it. It's just not something that's talked about. But white women, on the other hand, they eat Chinese, they eat Mexican, they eat, they eat all these different foods. We tend to eat the same thing.
And you try getting a black person to go out to a restaurant to have a meal, try it.
I know,
They ain't working.
Especially if they're older.
Oh yeah.
They're not going anywhere.
My husband used to take, I used to say to him, I want to go out. He used to take me out. He paid for my meal and we would just sit there and watch it.
We don't eat a variety of different foods. We eat ethnically. We eat based on how we grew up.
Yeah.
And we tend to stay that way.
Yeah.
And that's a reason why. And we don't go and we don't ask for information about hormone replacement therapy. We don't ask about that. White people do. We don't do that. If you will notice, in any big city, you will notice in the mornings, let's say, I'm going to just take, for instance, I'm going to take Washington, D.C., which is in the States, right? That's our nation's capital, right? That's a huge city. People are always coming in and coming out. I've been up there, I've lived up there for a while, and I've noticed, you will notice in the morning, the traffic is heaviest in the morning. Because everybody is going in. These people that work on Capitol Hill, these legislators and all these people, they're going into the city, right? But you will notice in the evening, all the traffic is coming this way because they're coming out. They live in the suburbs. We live in the cities.
Yeah.
The black people. I'm just being honest. The white people don't live in the cities. They work in the cities, but they don't live there. They come out and they live in the suburbs. That makes a difference on your health too. That makes a difference on your socioeconomics. Okay? Even when I am driving around in the States, if I'm doing something that's local, meaning in the States, and I'm driving around, I want something healthy to eat, and I see Jaguars and Mercedes, and I see, all these nice cars, I say, there's got to be a Whole Foods around here somewhere.
Okay.
There's a health market somewhere, because they're going to market them in those areas.
Yes.
They don't market them in the black areas. They don't. That's what I was about to say. They got Church's Fried Chicken, they got KFC, they got what we call growing up the Red Dot, which is the liquor store on this corner, and then you got a church on that corner. That's just how it is. That's what you see. So that's the disparity that you see. And the same thing with the Hispanics. The same thing. You see the same thing. And I see it. I see it when I go into big cities. So what are some factors, again, for early menopausal onset? It includes socioeconomics, stress. We're going to talk about stress, education, alcohol or tobacco use, and health concerns. We don't really we pay more attention to our health than the men do. Okay? But we don't really ask questions about our health and really pay attention to our health the way we should. There was a study done in 2022 involving more than 200,000 women in the United States VA system. And they found that compared with white women, black and Hispanic women were 26 and 32% respectively less likely to be prescribed hormone therapy for menopausal symptoms. Black women were also less likely to be prescribed vaginal estrogen. And one of the reasons, as we just talked about, was because we don't really talk about it. We don't really go and ask for that help. We don't search that help out. There's no really training, there's no really education. Even our young girls that are coming up today, they're not being educated. Because we were not educated, because our parents were not educated, because their parents were not educated. That was kind of like taboo. It's kind of like sex was. You just didn't talk about it. That's just something you just talk. Baby just came from a stork, but they just came from out the sky or something, right? And you didn't talk about where they actually came from. So the study also showed that black women are more likely than white women to experience bothersome menopausal symptoms, such as hot flashes, night sweats, trouble sleeping, mood changes, irritability. These groups are less likely than white women to have their symptoms documented. They are also less likely to receive treatment for the menopausal symptoms as well. And we just talked about why. Now some do, but the majority is what we're talking about, okay? So there are 4 stages of menopause. So the first stage is your premenopausal stage. During that stage, you're having regular cycles still, okay? And then you go through what's called a perimenopausal stage. That's a transitional stage. That usually starts about 3 to 5 years prior to menopause. So I remember when I was going through that stage, and then I would wake up in a pool of sweat. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And my brain just wasn't clicking, right? And my cycles were getting really, really heavy. I mean, just really heavy. It's like every couple of hours I had to change, you know, my pads and stuff. It was, and then the brain clicked in and I said, I know what's going on. So that, and it does, it lasts for a while. And as it says, it typically begins in your 40s and it lasts for several years. Then you will notice a hormonal shift that will begin to start. Your ovaries will start slowly starting to get ready to stop. And that's when you'll notice your cycles are less. You might have one month, then you might skip 2 months. Then next thing you know, you might skip 5 months. Then next thing you know, you might skip 6 months. So your cycles are starting to get less and less. That's when that change is starting to happen, okay? But even though your cycles are less, you can still get pregnant during this stage.
Yeah.
Okay? So you still got to watch out. Because I have some friends that they said, I mean, they're in their 50s now, but and I'm talking about guys, and they said that he and his brother were both oops. They were not supposed to be here, but they're here. Mama was like, I'm done. So menopausal stage could be between 30 and 60, but again, the average age is about 51. So this is when the ovaries stop working completely and are no longer releasing eggs. And then your postmenopausal stage is when a woman has surpassed a full year without a menstrual cycle. She will remain in this stage for the rest of her life. But the good thing about this stage, though, is when she gets about 70-ish, everything's going to start to balance out again. And it'll be fine. She'll be all right. But due to decreased estrogen, the risk for osteoporosis and heart disease increases. And we're going to talk about why. You will notice that you will see some older women, sometimes they're kind of humped over, or even their fingers are kind of curved a little bit. A lot of that is a lack of estrogen that they went through during their menopausal phase, but we're going to look at it. So vitamin D. So how does vitamin D affect menopause? So vitamin D acts as a hormone in the body, and it helps the body to produce estrogen. So vitamin D also helps with multiple hormone imbalances. So when your estrogen level is starting to decline during menopause, because what happens is during menopause, estrogen declines, okay? There are, and I didn't talk about it in this one, but there are 3 different phases of estrogen that a woman's body produces. The first one is estradiol. Estradiol is during her childbearing years. So let's say that ranges anywhere from 20 to 50, all right? And then the next one is estriol. Estriol is when a woman is pregnant. That's when that one will be most pronounced in her body. Because remember this, if you don't remember anything else, estrogen makes things grow. So that baby needs that estrogen so it can grow. Okay, so that's why estriol is doing that cycle. The third type of estrogen is estrone. Estrone is when you get to menopause, okay? When your body is not making that much estrogen. So your body still needs estrogen, but there's different phases of when it needs more than less, okay? The problem is with some menopausal women, the estrone is being converted. There's something in the body called aromatase. That's an enzyme in the body, okay? And if you've got a lot of fat in the body, if you're unhealthy and you're not working out and you got a lot of fat, that fat is going to be converted into estradiol. But that's not a good type of estradiol because of your age, because of where you are. So that's going to be too much estrogen. And if your body's got too much estrogen, that can lead to breast cancer. Okay? Yeah, during that phase. All right? So that's why you have to watch that. So because estrogen levels are significantly declining, a loss of estrogen results in increased bone loss. Because remember, that vitamin D helps to make that estrogen. And that's going to help with your bones. So if your peak bone mass before menopause is already less than what it should be, by the time you get to menopause, you really don't have less. And you see how doing 40, you're kind of standing up straight. By 60, you see that little hump might start in the top of your back. And then look at you by 70, you're kind of walking like this. And you see that. But that's a lack of, that's osteoporosis. That's a lack of calcium in the bones. So osteoporosis is a serious health issue among aging menopausal women. The majority of menopausal women with osteoporosis have bone loss related to estrogen deficiency. The body doesn't have enough estrogen. Because remember, once the ovaries stop, that's it. It's not gonna, once you use up all those eggs, it's not going to make any more. So let's look at calcium now when it comes to menopause. So when the calcium level in the blood decreases, your parathyroid gland is going to produce more of a parathyroid hormone, okay? When the calcium level in the blood increases, the parathyroid gland produces less hormone. So in other words, remember how we were talking about that hypothalamus that speaks to that pituitary gland? It's going to speak to that parathyroid too, as well as your thyroid, okay? So remember this, everything in the body has to be in a homeostasis state. It's got to be balanced. So like it was saying with the parathyroid, if the blood decreases, then the parathyroid hormone is going to produce more. If the blood increases, the parathyroid hormone is going to produce less. The body is always trying to keep you balanced. It's always trying to keep you at a balanced level. That parathyroid gland right there, it's going to produce a parathyroid hormone, which is going to go to your bones and it's going to release calcium into your blood, okay? And also, that parathyroid hormone is going to go to your kidneys, and it's going to help to reduce kidney clearance. So if you got too much calcium in your kidneys, it's going to help to flush it out. If it's got too less, it's going to give it more. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. We don't have to tell it to do this. Yeah. The body just does it. Yeah. God just created it to do it that way. Same thing with your intestines. And we're going to talk about that gut, because that gut is important. So it activates vitamin D and helps vitamin D absorb calcium into the gut. So imagine if your parathyroid is not releasing that thyroid hormone the way it should be. You're going to have some issues. Things are not being balanced, and you're going to have some problems. So that parathyroid hormone, what I wanted to show you too was, you see those little yellow dots? That's the hormones in the parathyroid that parathyroid gland releases. Okay? So before menopause, a woman needs at least about 1,000 milligrams of calcium daily. But after menopause, she needs about 1,200 milligrams daily. Because remember, her calcium is going down because her estrogen levels have gone down. Let's look at magnesium in menopause. So magnesium is a mineral that is needed for the production of hormones such as progesterone, estrogen, and testosterone. So your body doesn't make magnesium. So you have to get it from the foods you eat, or you have to get it from a supplement. So magnesium is essential for your thyroid production. You gotta have magnesium for that thyroid. That's one of the things you gotta have. You gotta have some other things, but that's one of the things. It also helps to reduce symptoms such as hot flashes. You see how magnesium helps with that? Night sweats, sleep disturbances, fatigue, mood swings, reduce anxiety, and it helps to improve your bone health. So the body needs magnesium. So the body needs vitamin D3, it needs calcium, and it needs magnesium. Especially when you're going through menopausal phase, because all of those help to deal with your bones and your bone density, all right? You also need, so what can you do? So you can get some regular exercise, right? Exercise is important. Walking. Your spirit prophet talks about walking is one of the best exercises that you can do outside in the open air. take a liquid. You can take a liquid calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D supplement. Okay, and that's going to help it get into the system faster. You can eat magnesium and calcium-rich foods such as your green leafy vegetables, your nuts, your soybeans, your whole grains, your breads, your cereals. And you can take a plant-based estrogen supplement, which is called a phytoestrogen supplement. You can take those as well, because the body needs that estrogen, okay? So the transition to menopause affects each woman differently. So again,
How did you take a picture of me?
fat cells change, and women may gain weight more easily, okay? So what's happening, that's why you gotta watch that weight. That's why you gotta exercise coming to you. So that's why it's important because if not, what's gonna happen to those fat cells is that, well, we're gonna talk about it. Yes, we're gonna talk about it next. Okay, what's your question?
Yeah, so my question is, so we need to eat phytoestrogen foods. What about tofu? Would that be enough, or do we need to take more supplementation, especially if you're vegan and you're eating quite a bit of tofu?
Everybody's body is different. It may be good, it may be enough for you, but it may not be enough for this person. And you don't have to eat it every day.
Yeah.
Okay, but it is good to eat more.
But would you take supplementation every day?
You could take supplementation. It depends. If your menopause is really bad and your bones may be aching and you may be really tired, fatigued, then you may need a little more. You may need to take it every day. She, on the other hand, she could be different. She could not be feeling that bad. She could be okay. She might, a little ache here or whatever. She may have to take it 3 times a week. Okay? So it just depends. So that's why I always tell people, whatever they're doing, because people always ask me, well, how long should I take this? Or how much of this should I take? I said, let your body tell you. If you know your body and watch your body's going to tell you how much of whatever it is that it needs. Because everybody's body is different. I'm going to give you a kind of a guide, but you may need more and you may need less. So just let your body tell you.
Thank you.
All right, so female body fat actually produces some of its own estrogen in addition to storing it. So it's going to store some of that estrogen that it makes itself. Remember, your ovaries are supposed to make estrogen. But when your ovaries stop making the estrogen, then your adrenal glands and your fat cells make your estrogen. Okay? So if you've got too much body fat, then it's going to make more than what it should be. All right? And that's going to make too much estrogen in your body. So this is why being overweight puts you at an increased risk of getting breast cancer. Okay? So estrone, again, as we were talking about, is the dominant adipose tissue, which just means fat tissue, of estrogen in premenopausal women. So estrone levels in fat tissues are much higher than they are in circulation. Okay? So in other words, you're storing more than you should be storing. And when the body uses that, it's going to convert that into estradiol that I was just saying. Okay? See, what it does, it converts it to estrone sulfate, then it converts it to estrone, and then it converts it to estradiol. And you don't want it to convert to estradiol, because that's where you can get in trouble with the breast cancer. So a fall in estradiol, which is an estrogen hormone, may lead to weight gain or difficulty losing weight. So you even have some women where they get to menopause and they can't lose weight. You know, and they have problems losing weight. That's that estradiol that's in there, okay? And then some forms of estrogen are linked with how the body controls weight gain. So body fat has an enzyme, this is what I was saying earlier, called aromatase, that converts. So even in men, the primary sex hormone in women is estradiol, okay, estrogen. In men, it's testosterone, okay? So if a man has too much body fat, it's going to convert that, it's going to aromatase it, it's going to convert it into 2 types of hormones, estrogen and testosterone, which is called dihydrotestosterone. And that happens when a man meets his, as they sometimes call it, menopause. okay? When he gets to that age. Now, if he's got a lot of body fat, then he will be at the same risk of a woman that has too much body fat of getting prostate cancer. She would get breast cancer, he would get prostate cancer. The issue is because they both have too much estrogen.
What is the age of menopause?
And it normally starts around the same, about 50, 51-ish. Yeah. You know, when they're in their 20s, they're running around, they're doing things, you know, just kind of like us, right? But then when they get in their 40s, you start to see that what we used to call beer gut, where they just want to kind of sit down and just eat. They don't want to work out, they don't want to do anything, right? So, but that's why a woman with breast cancer, an estrogen dominant breast cancer, because there are many different forms of breast cancer, but if she's got an estrogen dominant one, a man with prostate cancer will have the same thing. They got the exact same thing. That's too much estrogen. So when I make a formula for prostate cancer, I'm also, well, a prostate reducer, I should say. Prostate cancer, I make a little different formula. But if I make a formula for a prostate reducer, just as an estrogen reducer, or what you call an estrogen blocker, to block some of that estrogen, I use the same formula. I just switch the names. Because they're going to use the same thing.
So when women start developing a beard, is it too much testosterone?
A woman?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's when she needs more estrogen. She still has to balance her hormones. A lot of times you see that if a woman has PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, because she's got too much progesterone, okay, which is too much testosterone in the body, okay? So she needs to get more estrogen to kind of balance her hormones out, all right?
So is that the same for young women as well? Because there are young women who have hairy face.
Matter of fact, I just talked to somebody yesterday. Somebody gave me the phone yesterday to talk to someone. And the girl was like 20, 22. Yep, whole bunch of hair, hairy face. She's, from what I heard on the phone, she's kind of muscular, you know. And that's another thing. If a woman is very athletic, right, and she's always working out, she got muscles, she's gonna have too much testosterone in her body, and that could lead to other issues with her hormones being off balance. Okay, so you got to watch that too. So she would have to kind of reduce some of her exercising, get more estrogen in. All right, so you have to get more, even more plant-based estrogen. She can get phytoestrogen. She can get things like black cohosh and Don Quad, which I got up here. I'm gonna show you in a minute. But she needs more estrogen. Okay, if a woman is like that.
Did you say polycystic ovarian system? Polycystic. Because of too much progesterone, which is testosterone.
No, progesterone is, you got 3 different hormones. You got progesterone, you got estrogen, and you have testosterone. Okay? All right? But if someone's got PCOS, they got a little bit too much it is testosterone, but it's also a little bit too much progesterone. The hormones aren't being balanced the way they should. In other words, just remember this, she doesn't have enough estrogen. She got too much of a male androgen, which is the male sex hormone, which is testosterone. She got too much of that, so we got to balance that out. Okay? All right.
Is that the reason why you can always get this one hair that just hangs there?
You can, because we all have, women and men all have estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone. We all have it. We just have, women they should have more estrogen because we've got to produce babies, right? And remember, estrogen makes things grow. And men, they have more testosterone. But sometimes those hormones get mixed up. Sometimes women may get a little too much testosterone than they need, okay? Or a little bit too much progesterone and not enough estrogen, or too much estrogen, okay? Or a man, again, when that aromatase happens, when he reaches that, usually, typically for a man, is when he gets to that menopause, okay? He's got to watch it, because he's got to be exercising, he's got to be, staying healthy, staying fit, eating good foods, not eating junk foods, because if not, that fat that's going to be on his body is going to aromatase. It's going to convert to 2 types of hormones, which will be that estrogen and that testosterone, which will be dihydrotestosterone. He doesn't want that. If a man has, let's say a man and his son both go to the doctor's office, right? And the son is, let's say, 20 years old. And the doctor say, man, your testosterone is off the chart. Go and fertilize the world. Have as many babies as you can, right? But then when it comes to the daddy, he looks at the daddy, he said, man, your testosterone is off the charts. You need to sit down, we're gonna have to talk. And the daddy's gonna be like, well, why you just told my son his was off the charts and he's gonna fertilize the world? Why can't I? Because he's got a different type of testosterone. He's got that dihydrotestosterone. And that's when you need to sit down and you need to talk. Because we don't want that to convert to that. Because that could end up with a man having prostate cancer. Okay? When he gets to that age. So I saw a hand back there.
Yeah, I noticed on the board it says about the symptoms being gum, one of them being gum disease or gum problems. What?
Because of the calcium. Were you in here when we talked about the calcium? Calcium.
So it's one of the side effects then, like receding gums or...
It could be.
Yeah.
It could be. Yep. As a matter of fact, we was somewhere and a lady was talking about her gums and her teeth. And she was in her 70s and we were like, yep, it's a lack of estrogen. She needs some estrogen supplements. Because the calcium is being lowered in her body. Remember, calcium is good for your bones and your teeth. Okay? So that's the issue. That would be the issue for someone like that. Okay?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
All right, so some other symptoms. Irregular periods, vaginal dryness, hot flashes, chills, again, irritability, sleep problems, weight gain, and that metabolism slows down, ladies. So we gotta watch that, because if that metabolism slows down, we're gonna put on more weight. We gonna eat the same, but we just gonna see that it ain't going nowhere that fast, right? Because we're not metabolizing as fast as we used to. So menopause, here's another thing that it can do. It can lead to changes in hormones and metabolism, ultimately altering your lipid profile, okay? Your lipid profile is a blood test that's gonna measure the amount of fat, basically your cholesterol that's in your blood and your triglycerides, okay? So it can determine risk factors for you developing heart conditions. That's why you will notice more women that go through menopause, they have heart issues. And that's because of their lipid panel, okay? That fat that's being converted. Let's see what happens. So when the lipid profile is affected, this can lead to increases in your cholesterol, which can lead to heart conditions. Because why? We're going to talk about it in a minute. So a lipid panel, you need to look at your total cholesterol. So your HDL, which is your good cholesterol, your LDL, and your triglycerides, okay? So you need to watch that. I just had a lipid panel done not too long ago because my menopausal is up and down, up and down, up and down. So it was good, but it wasn't as good as I would have wanted it to be. But the nurses, they don't know any better. They're, oh, this is great, this is excellent. Because I don't eat, like other people eat. I eat differently. But still, I was like, I didn't like those numbers. Because I know what was happening. That means my liver isn't converting it, getting rid of that excess estrogen the way it should. So when you eat, your body converts any calories it doesn't need to use right away into your triglycerides. Now notice that. So if you're eating something and it's just, let's say for instance, it's just empty calories. Because we just eating, some bread or we eating some sweets or whatever we eating, right? The body can't do nothing with that right now. But it's gonna store it. Where does it store it? In your fat cells. Okay? You see how that's gonna affect your triglycerides? That's gonna affect your heart? So, but later it's gonna release it when it needs to. When the body needs that energy in between your meals. So if you regularly eat more calories than you burn, particularly from high carbohydrate foods, this could lead to high triglyceride levels in your blood, okay? So estrogen contains many heart protective mechanisms. Estrogen helps to protect our heart. So remember what we said earlier, if that estrogen level drops during menopause, we're losing some heart protective measures. All right, and then add that on top of the lipid panel, the fat panel, right? if we're not eating right, if we're not exercising, if we're not doing those things. So when menopause begins and your estrogen levels go down, your body's ability to maintain a healthy lipid profile can be affected. And this could lead to increases in cholesterol. Your liver, and I'm gonna see if I got this in here. Yeah, I got it in here. No, yeah, good. Okay, so your liver regulates your estrogen levels. Your liver metabolizes estrogen, progesterone. It's gonna metabolize those hormones. All right, everything you eat has got to go to that liver because the liver's got to metabolize it. It's got to see what it needs to keep. It's got to see what it needs to use as waste. All right. So starting with menopause, estrogen levels begin to fluctuate. This makes it difficult for your liver to be able to detoxify it the way it needs to. So now your liver's got these high estrogen levels in it, okay? Because it's not detoxifying it the way it should. Add that on top of to extra fat added into your body. You see what I'm saying? You see how all these things can start to add up and how all of these can be like a domino effect in your body. So it makes it difficult to detoxify the harmful estrogens that are associated with breast cancer. So these estrogens can stay in your body because the liver isn't metabolizing them because it's just going up and down, up and down, up and down because it's fluctuating a lot. So what are some things you can do to keep your liver healthy?
Oh, I'm glad you said that.
Artichokes are great, right? Cruciferous vegetables like your kale, your cabbage, your broccoli, your cauliflower. Those are excellent for your liver. Your turmeric, your garlic, your onions, your ginger, your citrus fruit, your lemons, your limes, your beets, protein, your nuts, your omega-3s, right? You can also get protein from your cruciferous vegetables. Your greens, your dandelion, your coriander, your spinach, your berries, especially your dark berries. They are high in antioxidants. They're very, very good, like your blueberries and your blackberries, okay? So basically, the way God told us to eat in Genesis 1:29, right? That's our diet. That will keep your liver healthy. Then you can use some supplements if you need to, like milk thistle, dandelion, burdock, licorice root, green tea, astragalus, ginkgo biloba, ginseng.
What's astragalus?
Astragalus is an adaptogenic herb. It's an herb,
Okay.
but it's an adaptogenic, meaning that it helps your body to handle stress.
Oh, okay.
And there are a couple of different adaptogenic herbs. They're really, really good. We're talking about stress. All right. So now, if you were to go to a doctor would give you some hormone therapy replacement drugs. All right. Like you see some of these pills that they'll give you. You see some of the creams that they'll give you. You see some of the vaginal tablets that they'll give you. In some of these creams and pills, there's one called Premarin. Anybody ever heard of Premarin?
No, yeah.
Premarin comes from a pregnant mare
Ew.
urine. She's got to be pregnant.
Ew.
A female, that's right, a pregnant mare's urine. That's where they get Premarin. Okay?
And we put that in our body.
We don't know.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, thank you.
But that's one of the hormone replacements that they use.
Excuse me.
Uh-huh.
How do they expect it to work? As in, how does that work?
It will work just like any other hormone. So you can, to naturally lower your cholesterol, you can eat legumes such as beans, chickpeas, lentils, your whole grains, your barley, your oats, your fresh fruit. Y'all have seen this before, right? So that's our diet, right? Omega-3 fatty acids from walnuts, flax seeds, avocados, and again, exercise. Strength training, ladies, would be really, really good, even if you only do 5 pounds. All right, but if you take them and you walk with them, you know, your dumbbells. I do strength training 5 days a week. I don't lift any more than 20 pounds though. But I love exercising. I've been exercising for 20 plus years. But it will help when you get to menopause with your muscle mass and with that calcium, with your bone density. Okay?
Well, how long do you do the strength training?
I only do it 30, maybe 45 minutes. But 30 minutes tops is usually what I do.
A day.
A day. About Monday through Friday. I don't do anything on Sabbath, and I could start back on Sunday if I wanted to, but I don't do it. I just start back on Monday.
Dead rest.
I need 2 days of rest. And since I've been here, I haven't been able to, work out. And actually, I've been in Europe for about 3 weeks now. So I haven't been able to do any exercise. So the exercise that we've been doing in the morning, man, I'm feeling it now. It's like, woo! Body is saying, wait a minute. And I don't even have no weights. But that's good though, because it's letting me know, you gotta get back in. When you feel it, that's just that lactic acid, okay, in your body. But that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. You just work through it. I got a question over here.
Yeah, you know your olive oil.
Mm-hmm.
How do you use it?
Do not cook it. Do not heat it. Okay? Cold press, fresh olive oil. Don't heat it, because when you heat it, you're going to change the molecular structure of that oil, which is going to be changed inside of your body. Okay? So you don't heat it.
I love jogging, but I now like in my foot.
Yeah.
And I feel like it doesn't work when it used to work, and I heard that it's actually better to do strength than cardio. True.
And it can be. I mean, it's a form. You talking about just like brisk walking?
I jog. I like to
You still jog?
No, I started to do
Okay.
strength.
Jogging is good if you want to jog. I hate jogging, so I don't do
No, but
it.
I started feeling that it doesn't.
I don't do it. But it's good.
I feel that it doesn't work now.
It doesn't work for you now? Yeah, but just do a brisk walk. A brisk walk would be good. And you can still get the same cardio effect if you were to do weights, strength training.
They say that strength is much better for you because
It is good.
Because it doesn't, when you actually jog a lot, you are losing your mass, and then hormones work opposite way.
It's good. It's good if you do strength training. I would recommend anybody just start off with 5 pounds. I don't go to a gym. I do it at home, and I got a couple of different YouTube videos that I like to watch, and I just use those.
With olive oil, if I cook and then I put olive oil after, is that okay?
That's okay. After it's cooked.
Yeah.
After you take it out of the oven, yes. Then you can add your olive oil. Yes. I got a question back here.
Yeah, what's becoming quite popular now in terms of exercise is using a rebounder.
That is very good too.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. That is very good. That really helps your lymphatic system to drain. Using a rebounder, if you want to jump, it's like a little mini trampoline. It's probably about the size of this table, maybe a little bigger. And you just can kind of get on that and jump on that for a little bit. I do not. Scott does, and he doesn't have any with him. But I'll tell you different things that you can get because I use his. But I said, why reinvent the wheel? He already makes it. So I don't need to make it. Now, if I need to make it, I'll make some, but I just use his. I got a question back there. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Tonya. Just to add to what you were saying about the strength exercise, they do advocate in the UK that women, especially as we're getting older, should actually do that because it wards off osteoporosis.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We just talked about that. That's right.
Great.
Absolutely. Because your body is losing estrogen, which means vitamin D is used to help to make estrogen in the body, so you're going to get bone loss. Okay?
What was the product you were referring to last company? It's just the one last actually.
I have to think about what it's called. I know. I can't think of the name of it. When I think of the name, I'll let you know. I think it just called something. Yes.
My question was, what do you sell for?
Oh yeah.
For menopause.
She asked me what do I sell for menopause. I told her I don't sell anything because I get what I use from Scott because he sells some. So why reinvent the wheel when he already makes it, right? I mean, if I had to make something, I could. I'll mix up some with some black cohosh or Don Qua or whatever, and some other herbs in it. But I don't need to because he's already got in his formula. So I just get his formula. But he doesn't have any more. As a matter of fact, he was supposed to bring me some, and he didn't even bring me any. So, so he didn't bring any. So we gotta have a little chat about that one. But that's all right. Okay? So to naturally ease menopausal symptoms, you need to eat your foods that are rich in calcium D and magnesium and calcium and vitamin D. Maintain a moderate weight. You want to have a good, healthy weight. You want to eat lots of fruits and vegetables. You want to avoid the trigger foods such as spicy foods, fatty foods. Eat more foods that are high in phytoestrogens. That's just plant-based estrogens, okay? Drink enough water. You need to drink at least half your body weight in water.
What foods have phytoestrogens?
Oh, all of them. The plants, the same thing. Exactly. Yep, all of them. The nuts, the vegetables, the fruits. Okay. Soy products too. Now people have sometimes they have a little controversy with the soy. But if you're going through menopause, you need a little more soy. Okay? You really do, because it's really good for you. All right, now I'm not saying you have to eat it every day, but you just need a little more, okay? So here's some supplements. So if I were to make a formula, I'd probably use some wild yam, I'd use some black cohosh, I might use some red clover, I might use a little bit of lady's mantle, I'll use some maca, okay? So different herbs that you can use to make a supplement, or you can just take some of those. You don't have to take all of those supplements, all right, at one time. You can just take some of those. But when you do, make sure you have that liquid calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D3. Or if not, make sure you have some calcium, some magnesium, and vitamin D3. Calcium, magnesium, and vitamin D3. And you can get it in a liquid form. So that it will get absorbed into your system from the health food store. Yeah, it'll get absorbed into your system quick. All right. All right, here's some more supplements you can take. We got magnesium on there. We got vitamin A. You need a good B complex vitamin. All right, that would be good. Your vitamin K, your vitamin C. So just take a good whole foods multivitamin, ladies. That would be really, really good. All right.
I was watching a program the other week, and they were saying it's better for you to take the vitamin in the natural form than for you to use a supplement, because the supplement your body takes longer to absorb and digest.
It does. And you can get it from your foods. All those foods we just named, you can get all those vitamins from it. But I always like to add supplements because people don't eat right, you know, the way they should. So I will put the food on there, but I also put the supplements on there. All right, so here's some phytoestrogen herbs, all right, like licorice, alfalfa, hops, turmeric, verbena. Those are some good phytoestrogen herbs. Here's a phytoestrogen formula. You would take like 2 parts red clover, 2 parts black cohosh, 1 part soy isolate. You mix that together, you take a tablespoon of that, add it to about 8 ounces of water, and you would drink 2 cups 2 to 3 times a day. That's a great one.
Can you put the phytoestrogen herbs back up?
Okay. All right, now another thing I want to talk about is stress.
Excuse me.
Yes. Okay.
That one, yeah. You talk fast.
You know, I don't have a lot of time. I'm on the clock. Yes.
So when you say 2 cups,
A part is anything you make it. If you want this cup to be a part, this cup can be a part. If you want this to be a part, it could be a part. If you want a little glass to be a part, it could be a part.
my question is this in a powder form?
It would be in powder form. Or you can use cut and sift it. It doesn't matter. You can use the herb, you cut and sift it. It does not matter.
So isolate.
Yeah, that's something you have to buy. It's just an extract of a soy. Yeah, product.
Can you make it your own?
You probably could if you looked it up. You probably could. Yep. All right. We ready? We ready to talk about stress?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alfalfa, is that the one for the cows?
Yes.
Is that the food for the cows?
Yes.
I didn't hear.
Alfalfa,
Alfalfa, what did you say?
is that the food for the cows?
Yes. Alfalfa is good.
And how do you eat that?
I put it in a lot of green formulas. Sunsprouts, it's great for green formulas too.
Oh,
Okay. So let's read this quote first. This comes from Councils of Health, page 324. It says, Satan is the originator of disease, and the physician is warring against his work and power. Sickness of the mind prevails everywhere. 9/10 of the diseases from which men suffer have their foundation here. That means 9/10 of diseases in the what? It's in the mind. And we run into that a lot. A lot. When you're working with somebody you're everything to them. And you got to talk to them because you got to figure out what happened to them mentally and spiritually that caused them to be sick physically. Okay? Because it's always a spiritual aspect to it. Always.
Amen.
It says remorse for sin sometimes undermines the constitution and unbalances the mind. The religion of Christ, so far from being the cause of insanity, is one of its most what? Effectual remedies. For it is a potent soother of the nerves. And I know everybody has experienced that. When you read the Bible, it just calms you down. It just puts you in another state of mind. It does. You just kind of forget about what you were dealing with and what was going on. So what is stress? So stress describes an experience caused by something called a stressor. So something has stressed you out. Stressors can be emotional or physical. They can cause us to react when we feel under pressure or threatened. Although we refer to stress as an emotion, it's much more than that. It actually creates, notice that word, it actually creates a series of physiological events inside the body. So that means stress actually does something to you physically. And we're going to look at it. So how often these events occur and how long they last have a huge impact on your health, specifically on autoimmune diseases. I'm not going to get into autoimmune diseases, but we might touch it just for a second. So some major stresses include the death of a loved one, divorce or breakup, being subjected to physical or emotional abuse or trauma. Some less obvious stressors could include not getting enough sleep, skipping meals, working long hours, overexercising, or taking care of everyone else but yourself. I know we all can kind of relate to that a little bit. Some positive events, even like getting married or landing your dream job or moving to a home or a new town, those also can be stressors.
You know when you're saying stressor, but the person who's looking after the individual, I've known so many people that the carer end up dying before they.
That's right. You see that a lot.
Yeah.
You do. You see that a lot. Yep. So all stressors cause an amazing cascade of events inside your body called the stress response. So your body reacts to stress in two ways. First is through the nervous system. We're not going to talk about the nervous system because I'm focusing on hormones. But the nervous system is a huge one. The second is hormones. That's the one we're going to look at. How does your body react to stress through your hormones? You got two important hormones that play a role in this, and that's cortisol and adrenaline that are made by your adrenal glands. Remember that picture that I had first off, okay, of the endocrine system? Your adrenal glands make cortisol and adrenaline. So the hormone response. So your body reacts to stress through initiating a chain of hormones. Remember how we talked about that hypothalamus? That hypothalamus is the master gland, okay? That's your control center for your brain, all right? So all those hormones, and it makes hormones. It makes hormones that release them to the pituitary gland, which sits right below that hypothalamus, all right? So those two talk to each other. So it knows what hormones to release and when to release it, and it'll release it to the pituitary. The pituitary will release it to either the thyroid, wherever it needs to go. Thyroid, adrenals, ovaries, testes, wherever it needs to go. It just works like a fine-tuned machine, right? When it's working right. The problem is when it's not working right. So when the stress response is initiated, again, the hypothalamus is going to secrete a cortisol-releasing hormone called CRH. And then it's going to talk to the pituitary, and the pituitary is going to release a hormone called ACTH. All right? This causes your adrenal glands, which sit right on top of your kidneys, to release your main stress hormone, which is cortisol. Cortisol is your main stress hormone. And it's going to raise your blood sugar. That's one of the things cortisol does. It helps to give you that extra blood sugar that you need when your body is in that fight or flight response. Okay? Either it's going to fight or it's going to flight. Okay? It's going to flee. One of the two. But cortisol and adrenaline are responsible for that.
And at the back of their neck, at the hypothalamus, that's where you store all the hurts, the pains, the trauma, everything is stored right there. And so it's important to fix that so the cortex can speak to it.
That's
so
right.
You don't get stressed out.
That's right. That's right. So listen to this. Cortisol is your main anti-inflammatory hormone in the body. Okay? So it suppresses your immune cells and prepares the body for a potential injury. Now, your immune system is vital. In order for you to be healthy, you got to have a healthy immune system. All right? Let's say, for instance, we're going to talk about the immune system in a minute, but I want to kind of give you an idea. Inflammation. I'm just going to give you an example of inflammation. Let's say, for instance, you hit your toe with a hammer. All right? That's going to hurt. All right? But what's going to happen is your immune system is going to kick in, because your immune system is your defense system. It keeps everything going. Your immune cells are always going through your blood looking for what's not right, and it's going to fix it. When you hit your toe, it's going to send two hormones down there, two major hormones, bradykinin and histamine. It's going to send those two hormones down. What those two hormones are going to do, they're going to dilate the blood vessels in that toe, making it wider and making it redder. That's when you get the redness from hitting your toe or your foot on something. Because those two hormones are coming in because they're coming in to repair it. Okay? And then when it does that, it also sends fluid in with it. And that fluid, what it does, it helps to debris it, basically. It's going to take out that bad tissue. All right? So that's why it swells. And then it's going to send a signal to your brain, so your brain can let you know, ouch, that hurt. That's a pain signal, right? So what you're going to do then is first thing you're going to do is grab your toe, because you're going to try to protect it. But the body is already ahead of you because in the inside it's protecting it. Okay? The problem is when the inflammation lasts too long. It's supposed to be for a while. But when you get chronic inflammation, that's when you get an issue. But by your hormones, if you're in that fight or flight stage, it's going to suppress your immune cells because your cortisol is going to take over. And your cortisol is going to suppress those immune cells. So when it does that though, and what it's trying to do is trying to prevent your body from becoming too overactive, and damaging tissues that your body needs to heal. Okay? Your adrenals. Again, your adrenals sit on top of your kidneys, right? And your adrenals help to regulate your metabolism, your immune system, all right? Blood pressure, your response to stress. All right, adrenals are important because, again, remember, your adrenals make what two hormones? Cortisol and adrenaline. So one common way that stress affects the body is by causing hormonal imbalances. A hormonal imbalance occurs as a result of having too little or too much of a particular hormone in the bloodstream. Remember, the body's supposed to be in a homeostasis state. It's got to be balanced. So through a combination of nerve and hormonal signals, this system prompts your adrenal glands on top of your kidneys to release a surge of hormones that include adrenaline and cortisol. Now let's look at adrenaline. Adrenaline increases your heart rate. It elevates your blood pressure and it boosts your energy supplies. It activates your fight or flight response. That's adrenaline. And then after it activates it, cortisol comes in. And cortisol is going to give you a boost of sugar into your bloodstream. If you don't have enough cortisol, or if you don't have any, or your cortisol is so low, it's going to lead you to having an autoimmune disease or kidney disease. That's why cortisol is important. That's why stress is important. After your body releases its fight or flight hormones, then cortisol is released to help you stay at that high alert. The problem is, what if you don't come down? What if you stay stressed? You're suppressing your immune system. Your immune system can't work because cortisol is working. Cortisol is staying high, the immune system is staying low because cortisol automatically suppresses the immune system. You see why stress is important? So think of cortisol as your nature's built-in alarm system. It's your body's main stress hormone. It works with certain parts of your brain to control your mood, your motivation, and your fear. Cortisol is best known for helping to fuel. Again, that's when that rush of blood sugar is going into your system, because it sees your body is in a crisis state, and that could be because you just stressed. You just stressed out. Maybe the children not doing what they should be doing, or something's going on at work, or you're worried about this over here with your parents, or you're worried about not having a job or a car or something. If that stays up, your immune system can't work the way it should. And we're going to talk about your immune system in a minute, because it keeps inflammation down, it increases your blood sugar, and it boosts your energy so you can handle the stress. So in the case of a physical injury or illness, if the body doesn't have enough cortisol, then it can lead to low blood sugar because it's using all of that. So now your blood sugar is going to be low, which is a domino effect, which is going to lead to low blood pressure, which is going to lead to low sodium. Low sodium means high potassium. If you got too much potassium in your body, your kidneys can fail. You can go into renal failure. You see how important it is? So stress and uncontrolled reactions to stress can lead to kidney damage. Addison's disease is an autoimmune disease that deals with renal failure. Okay? So a lot of other autoimmune diseases can be involved in this too, like MS, okay, lupus. So how does cortisol work? So again, we talked about it. Your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland, both located in your brain, can sense if your blood contains the right level of cortisol. So if the level is too low, your brain adjusts the amounts of hormones that it makes. What happens once it does that, it's going to talk to your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands pick up on it and they release the hormones. But again, the problem is when that cortisol level stays up too high, it's okay for it to be up for high for a while because you might need it in that fight or flight instance, but it's supposed to come back down. But if you stay constantly stressed, that cortisol level is going to stay up, which means you're putting yourself at a risk of kidney failure. You don't want to do that. Cortisol receptors. Your body has a lot of receptors. Okay, you got receptors in your breast, you got receptors in your hormones, you got a lot of receptors. But these cortisol receptors, for instance, when your body is on high alert, cortisol can alter or shut down functions that get in the way. That's what we were talking about with the immune system. It can alter them or it can shut them down. That includes what? Your digestive system, your reproductive system, your immune system, or even your growth process. You see how that can affect you? Because 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut. It's in your gut. You got like 100,000 trillion bacteria in your gut. You got a lot of bacteria in your gut. So if cortisol shuts it down, that means your digestion is not going to be right. So if you're stressed when you eat, your digestion is not going to work properly because cortisol is kicking in and it's shutting down your immune system. If you're stressed, again, your immune system or even your reproductive system may not work right. Let's skip that. All right, let's look at your immune system. So your immune system is made of different cells, right? So you got your T lymphocytes. And your immune system is basically your white blood cells. That's your immune system. So your T lymphocytes are your killer cells. they directly attack any foreign invader in the body. Again, as I was saying, your immune system is always going through your bloodstream looking for something that's not right. Because it's going to grab it and it's going to pick it up. The problem is, if you've already got some other issues going on, it can sometimes attack itself. And if it attacks itself, that's when you get an autoimmune disease. It's when your body attacks itself. Then you got your B lymphocytes. So your B lymphocytes, they're going to make antibodies. And then your antibodies are going to attack and kill foreign substances. Then they got helpers. They got T helper cells that accelerate a quick response in the body of a foreign invader, or you got T regulator cells that help to suppress or turn off your immune system's response. So one turns it on, one turns it off. Because what is it doing? It's keeping it balanced. It's got to stay balanced. That system has got to stay balanced. So the connection between stress and your hormones is a very important way that stress affects the immune system. All of your hormones in your body, they call them immunodilators. That just means that there's a substance, whatever that substance may be, that can influence the number of immune cells or even change their activity in the body, making them either weaker or making them stronger. Food is an immunodilator. I won't get into that one, but it is one. It's powerful, but it is one. So your two main stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, are also immunodilators. So they greatly influence how your T cells develop and mature. So you don't want too much immune activity in the body, because it's going to cause your immune system to overreact, and it's going to start attacking itself. And again, that's when you get an autoimmune disease. And you don't want too less of an immune activity in your body, because now that can lead you to infections and illnesses. Because when your immune system is suppressed, when it's too low, that's when you can get sick. Because that's your fighter. That's your immune system. That's what keeps you healthy.
Can you just give me
Okay. So the system has to be balanced. When the system is healthy, the body makes a balanced number of T helpers and regulator cells. And again, food can be an immunodilator because your diet can affect your immune system. What if you have chronic stress? Chronic stress can cause your immune system to be suppressed for longer than it needs to be, and it can lead to infections, it can lead to gut health, and it can also lead to adrenal fatigue, as well as other conditions. And adrenal fatigue is when your adrenal glands get exhausted and they don't produce the hormones that they need to be able to keep your body functioning properly. And that's when you can get kidney damage. So chronic stress is nothing to play with. And that, again, that's when you're going through so many stress, and you may not even see it as chronic stress, but you got one stressor after another. Something is always going on in your life that's causing you stress, that's keeping that cortisol level up, and it's not balancing the way it should. And so it can cause your body to get sick. It can cause your digestive system to have problems. You may not feel stressed emotionally, but if you're skipping meals, if you're not sleeping, if you're over-exercising, that's chronic stress. These behaviors tax the body, causing it to secrete the stress hormone cortisol, again, from your adrenal glands. You can also be anxious, worried, upset, depressed, or have ongoing emotional trauma. That can cause chronic stress. So it means, again, that your cortisol levels are staying highly elevated. They're not coming down. And this can damage your immune system, and it can keep your body from good. All right? Let's look at what the Lord says about this. And temperance, in eating and drinking, and temperance in labor. That's working. You can overwork. And temperance in almost everything exists on every hand. Those who make great exertions to accomplish just so much work in a given time and continue to labor when their judgment tells them that they should rest are never gainers. They are living on borrowed capital. We only have so much vital force in the body.
What book is that from?
That is from Daughters of God.
Something to us with that.
they are expending the vital force which they need at a future time. Because your body only has a certain amount of vital force.
What book is it from, sorry?
Sons and daughters of God. Sons and daughters of God.
Sons and daughters of God.
No, daughters of God.
Daughters of God.
And when the energy they have so recklessly used is demanded, they fail for one of it. So in other words, when they need it at the time that they need it, they don't have it because they've already used it. By being stressed, by overworking, by overtaxing the body. The physical strength is gone, and now the mental powers fail. They realize that they have met with the loss, but do not know what it is. So they know something is wrong, but they don't know what it is that's wrong. Their time of need has come, but their physical resources are exhausted, meaning they've used them up. They don't have them.
What do you do when you're mental fatigue? I suffered from mental fatigue for 25 years. I'm on medication for it.
We'll talk about it, okay?
Okay.
As a rule, the labor of the day should not be prolonged into the evening. If all the hours of the day are well improved, in other words, if you use those hours of the day the way you shouldn't need to work in the evenings. The work extended into the evening is so much extra, and the overtaxed system will suffer from the burden imposed upon it. I have been shown that those who do this often lose much more than they gain. For their energies are exhausted and they labor on nervous excitement. Now you're messing with your nervous system. Okay? And that too will lead you to get sick. They may not realize an immediate injury, but they are surely undermining their constitution. Everyone who violates the laws of health must sometime be a sufferer to a greater or lesser degree. So overworking, not overtaxing the body, that's a law of health. That too can lead you to get sick. God has provided us with constitutional force, which will be needed at different periods of our life. If we recklessly exhaust this force by continual overtaxation, we shall sometime be losers. Our usefulness will be lessened, if not our life destroyed. When I read these quotes, I was like, man, stress ain't nothing to play with. It is nothing to play with. It's serious. It's serious. So
some of us work in very stressful environments.
I know.
Like social work.
I know.
Instead of having 10 cases, you've got 25, 26, sometimes 30, and you've got to work that. So,
what does the Lord say?
Yeah.
Do not overwork. Better far leave undone some of the things planned for the day's work than to undo oneself and become overtaxed. Do not today violate the laws of nature, lest you lose your strength for the day to fall. Don't overwork, because that's stress. I know it's but we got to follow it, right? That's what the Lord has told us to do. If not, if we don't follow it, we're going to suffer the consequences. We will suffer the consequences. This will balance the Christian character, making it well developed, symmetrical. Waiting and watching and working are to be blended. Not slothful in business, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. So she's not telling you the Lord's not telling you not to work. He said be balanced in it. Yeah. You gotta be balanced. You gotta be balanced in everything you do. I don't know what my time is. What's my time, ladies? What time is it?
11:22.
Okay, so I got about maybe 7 minutes. All right, so what can you do, right? So for your kidneys, eat healthier. Eat healthy foods. Limit your salt and caffeine. Set aside time to relax. Exercise regularly. Reduce the amount of sugar and fat in your diet. And that goes for everything we're talking about. Menopause, everything. Maintain a positive attitude and outlook. Get plenty of sleep. That's another thing. We don't sleep well. Don't keep your feelings inside. Okay? Don't let that stress you. Talk to the Lord about it. You don't have to talk to another human being, but talk to the Lord about it. He hears you, and He will help you. I know we've all been in those situations. I know I've been in them. And I know he hears. He will help you. Have a relationship with God. Reduce the amount of stress. And there's some physical things you can do. Dandelion tea, milk thistle tea, red clover, burdock. We listed some of these already, right? On menopause. That's why they all go hand in hand. It's hormones. It's still dealing with your hormones. All right? Nettle seeds are great though for the kidneys. If someone's got kidney failure, if they've got at least 15% of their kidneys left, nettle seeds are great. They're really, really great for the kidneys. All right? So we're gonna stop right here in case anyone has any questions. Nothing easy about it. I'll tell you a personal testimony of myself. About 10 years ago, I moved to the country and doing good, doing things in the country. Moved to Tennessee. Myself and my husband, we moved to Tennessee. A year and 5 days later, he dies. Out of nowhere. Now you want to talk about some stress? And we were like joined at the hip. You didn't see one without the other. And I said, Lord, what am I going to do? Nothing was nice. The birds were singing, the skies were blue. I said, what's so blue about the sky? Who cares about the birds singing? I'm just being honest. I hated life. I didn't care about it. But I knew that God makes no mistakes. He knows the end from the beginning. And this I knew that when Christ returns, I have no doubt in my mind he's going to be there. I just got to make sure I'm going to be there. So I know that God will get you through. But there were times where I hated everything. I couldn't even function. I couldn't even get up out of the bed. But I knew that if I kept going that route, I said, Lord, I need your help because I'm spiraling down. And if I keep going, I knew I was going to get sick. I knew I was. But he helped me by his grace. Only by his grace. And it was a long journey up that hill, but I have been up it, I am down it, and I'm walking with Christ. It's just on a straight and narrow road. Amen. He is keeping me. So I know how it is. But God will get you through. It's a day by day, sometimes it's a moment by moment process. But he will get you through.